What's up, guys? How you guys doing? So this is gonna be introduction number one on some of the stuff I want to talk about. So I did a sloppy slideshow, but basically I'm gonna touch base on everything so far, just the introduction of what I want to try to like talk about for the show. One of them is frequency vibrations. So um, sorry if I have a couple of errors and stuff, but I'm doing this in one take. So everything is energy, and that's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, this is physics. So if you think about that for a second, I have a bunch of examples I want to pull up. If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Nikola Tesla said that. These are basically somatic patterns. So I took audio engineering in college. We learned everything about sound waves and stuff. So music that you listen to, instruments that you play, they all create sound waves. This is a physical representation. If you put sound on top of an actual plate that vibrates a certain frequency, it will start to make patterns. They did this with water. They did this with sand. Basically, this is a physical, like eye perceptive, visual representation of how different energy forms look that we can't see to the naked eye. So think about that for a second. What tripped me out when I saw this initially was there's things that we can't perceive with our own eyes, but we can feel it. We have emotional changes, psychological changes when we hear music, we play instruments, we sing, art, all that stuff. In my opinion, is all connected. But let me show you guys. So this is the scale pattern for a piano. I don't know if any of you guys play instruments. One thing that stood out to me was the frequency. When you have to tune an instrument to a certain frequency to get the right pitch, your ears will pick it up. You're able to play the instrument. I play guitar, and when you have to tune the guitar, you have to tune each string to a specific frequency. So what I'm trying to pretty much convey to everybody is like everything is all connected by frequency, and there's vibrations to everything. So scientific approach, I don't know a lot about science. I read a lot about science, but I don't know enough to back up to say that there's a deeper meaning to everything. But just from the music standpoint, everything's connected to frequency. So this is our human brain waves. As you can tell on the left side right here, there's a range of frequency, just like a tuned instrument, 31 to 100, and it says insight, peak focus, expanded consciousness. So our brain waves and patterns fluctuate when we are awake during the day and we sleep at night. So if you go down, the beta, 16 to 30 hertz, is alertness, concentration, and cognition. Alpha, 8 to 15 hertz, is relaxation, visualization, creativity. Theta, 4 to 7 hertz, meditation, intuition, and memory. Delta waves, very slow, detached awareness, healing, and sleep. So when we are unconscious, the delta waves and theta waves start to blend and slow down. Our subconscious awakens and pretty much are able to dream. A lot of people experience REM and stuff. I started noticing, because I did start meditating, this activation on the theta waves will start to slow down anxiety. And when I've been doing it for the past 6 weeks, I was able to have full deep body relaxation. That's just from meditating. So a law of vibration. This law describes that everything in the universe vibrates all the way down to a singular molecule atom. The law holds true in every aspect of life. Vibration is in the physical world, within our thoughts, feelings, desires, dreams. Every vibrational frequency has unique vibration. So I was talking to my friend Adam on the phone about pretty much our reality and how everything is built of atoms. I don't know, you guys have taken some type of science classes. Well, they'll pretty much explain how everything is built up of atoms. They were able to do a lot of scientific studies to perceive atoms as they vibrate to a certain frequency, but at the same time, everything is held together, right? Sorry, the sun's like coming out right now. So the vibration chart I wanted to show you guys was the emotional frequency. This is by Dr. David Hawkins. The bottom part versus the top part. You want to be able to bring your frequency vibration up in terms of, there's changing your diets, meditating, but basically everybody in their waking moment will fall on this graph. And if you really look at it, the bottom part, the lowest vibrational feeling. So when someone says to you like, oh, people have like low vibes, or they seem, off, not off, but like they're having a bad day or something like that, it's usually something on the bottom part of the graph. So when I first read this, I was just like, thought to myself, a lot of the time, especially if people are doing, shadow work and stuff where they have to do inner healing and trauma healing and conditioning breaking, generational break and stuff like that, you're going through all of these patterns on the bottom until until you get to about the middle. You want to hit like courage and neutrality. That's when people, in my opinion, I feel like when they start working out, start changing their habits, it starts to raise their frequency up. So at any given moment, at anybody that I've never talked to or encountered or met, there's a lot of people, it's obvious we're human beings, we're with emotions, but we are stuck in this contracted part of the graph. So when people say to raise your frequency, raise your vibration, a lot of stuff changes when that happens in terms of how you think about yourself, how you go about your day. This goes hand in hand with spirituality, religion, love, compassion, and all that stuff. Obviously, since we are modern human beings and we have different emotions, this will fluctuate per day. Some days you're going to be feeling grief or anxious, or something even worse where people are going through a lot of stuff, heavy burdens. You'll be at this area and be there for a long time of not being able to get out of the loop. This is what I'm trying to explain to people, is when I talk about now if you raise your frequency up, your vibration up, in terms of practicing meditation or doing inner work to heal, your actual aura or glow will start to change within yourself. So in terms of what I've so far read on books and everything, was we perceive our reality in terms. Sorry guys, I lost my mic. But in terms of pretty much starting within and being able to change yourself through practices like this, you're able to notice different results outside of your perception of consciousness. So if you are pessimistic or depressed all the time, you attract that. So I also believe if you are optimistic, and I'm not saying overly joyous or overly optimistic, but enough to be content within yourself to have some type of peace, and that takes a long time. It takes a long time. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to read one book and be like, oh, okay, like I can go out and pretty much change the world. But in small, simple terms, you can. So the last part I wanted to say is why raise your vibrations. Most of us vibrate at less than 250 on the Omega conscious scale. So 250 is right by neutrality, courage, pride, right? This is throughout our lives we accumulate hidden energy blockages and negative conditionings that hold us back from higher vibrations. The level we should aim for, however, is 500, which is love, and above. 500 is the vibration of love. When you vibrate at this level, life becomes drastically different. Love, joy, abundance are suddenly within your grasp. Pain, stress, struggle seem to melt away, and you become a magnet for what you truly desire. So that this is a core belief, core understanding of what the graph does. So when they say that I'll go back to how I was talking, if you're always all the time thinking about the negative outcome of not even Murphy's Law, but saying, oh, something bad's going to happen to me today. Sometimes it's like that. Sometimes it will happen where, you get a flat tire, or, whatever, like you lose cash. But if you're stuck on that low frequency of thinking all the time that basically, nothing's going right, you're stuck in a loop. And I go back to the graph of, you start to feel grief, anxiety, fear, a decision not working out, all that stuff. But being able to practice this in a slow period of time through meditation, through reading books, through higher learning, like even through religion, finding, love in God and stuff like that, you'll be able to raise your vibration. And within, like, I want to say 7 weeks, almost about 8 weeks now, like, I've noticed the changeable difference. It's like going to the gym. When you go to the gym, it's not, the first couple of days you're going to start getting like buffed out and ripped, and you'll start feeling better. Your body starts to heal, but that also in terms of frequency. So once you raise your frequency, even just doing workout, like if you're, on the treadmill, or you're, lifting weights or this and that, you'll start to physically feel better after a couple of days. I mean, people that do work out, you know what I'm talking about. Like, you're able, after 3 weeks to 3 months to 6 months to 9 months, you'll start to notice the change. And that's also the case when you have your energy vibration, your frequency change. So if you think in terms of abundance, of if you always say I'm broke all the time, that's a big thing. That was a very big thing too. Like my cousin, she has her podcast. She was talking about how she never wanted to use the word broke, because it creates a thing within your consciousness saying all the time, that's the image of, I'm broke all the time, you'll never attain money. Or you stress, and we all stress about bills. I stress about bills. Everybody has bills to pay. But in terms of and not seeing everything as you've been blessed or abundant, it's kind of like you're stuck in that loop and nothing changes. And it's the same thing if I'll go back to the gym. Like, if you feel like you need to work out because you feel like you're out of shape or you want to lose weight, you start thinking about, oh, like, I don't know if I could do it. You don't change the sleep patterns, your eating patterns. You don't actually put the time into work. If you don't do the work for everything, then nothing changes. You're stuck in the loop. So this applies to the same thing as energy frequency. And I feel like a lot of people, especially now, I've met actually more people. This is why I wanted to start to do the channel, was I'm starting to notice more people are tuning in to a lot of changes in the world of, political stuff, things that are happening in the world, disaster stuff. And I feel people are more tuned in to pretty much like, oh, there's a lot of things changing. We don't understand what's happening, but it's a sense of like, it's a collective understanding that everybody's raising their frequency at the same time. They're starting to notice changes in the economy, like religion and stuff like that. So past couple of weeks, I had a spiritual awakening. I've gotten more in touch with like God and religion, and I feel like since then a lot of things have changed. And I met a lot of people earlier when I was younger, and was pretty much, I would look at them and they would seem more optimistic than I was feeling at the time, but all that was a reflective perception of my own self. So at the time when I was, younger, I was like, oh, why does this person seem like they're a lot happier than I am, or they're more successful than I am? I feel at times it was my own subconscious telling me that I wasn't good enough, or I needed to be on that level, So once you go through changing everything within yourself, your perception of reality changes, your consciousness changes, you start to look at things differently. And now, instead of, I used to be very pessimistic. When I was younger, I always see the grass is greener on the other side, like, all this is too good to be true, this and that. But then, when you have something that shakes up in your life, where you start to open up yourself more to, God or a higher spirit, and you start to look into things like this that I have done for like the past 3 weeks. I've just nonstop studying of like algorithm stuff that I've been pulling up. Like, it's crazy. But this is just the introduction of what I wanted to show you guys. Is basically, this is the starting block. So, and going back without me ranting, basically, like if you're able to do music, if you're able to meditate, you do art, stuff like that, I feel, in my opinion, is starting to disappear. Like there's music out there, right? A lot of people are very talented, and if you do play an instrument or you're a talented singer or dancer, like I would just say keep doing that. The world needs more of that because I feel like it's starting to disappear from the actual earth. There's so much oversaturation of everything. The industry has questionable stuff. Like I would just keep continuing that, because if you're gifted in that sense of being able to make a change and impress other people with creativity, that's a thing that you get to share, and that's very important, very important. But yeah, that's pretty much just the intro of what I wanted to show you guys. I'm gonna go in depth more. I just wanted to try to get something recorded before work, because I have to work. But yeah, thank you guys. Peace.